Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Aaron Blade, and I'm the editor, creator, and producer of what you're watching right now, Blade Talk. If you are new here, welcome, and you find this presentation helpful, informative, do me a huge favor and hit that like button. Do me an even greater favor and subscribe to my channel. I always appreciate all the support that I am given. So, first things first, I had to change out the bookshelves, okay? I needed my city behind me. All right, so I needed a new look. Hopefully you guys like it. Comment down below whether you do or not, or give me a big thumbs up. All right, I always appreciate that support. Having said that, you all know what time it is, right? It's time for you to ask me 5 questions, and I answer to the best of my ability, and I answer honestly. So without further ado, let's hit that intro. Let's begin. All right, let's get into this. I wanted to change the look for those that are wondering because I want to broaden my topics on this channel, right? Everyone knows that I am Jewish, and I spent a lot of time explaining and covering and teaching about Judaism, the Torah, and whatnot. And I'm still going to do that, but I'm also going to expand into being a father, and maybe I'll do some movie reactions or something like that. So let me know if that's something that you all are interested in. Having said that, let's jump right in to the first question. First question comes from D is Focused, and they ask, how did you approach learning for your conversion? I'm feeling a little overwhelmed with the amount of information there is to learn. Thanks. All right, so I approached my conversion to Judaism with an open heart and an open mind. All right, I didn't rush through anything. I know sometimes when it comes to converting, a rabbi will just throw a lot of books at you, right? I recommend you read this, right? And yeah, it can get overwhelming very quickly, but keep in mind that we are called people of the book for a reason. Right? It's the whole nature of being Jewish. You're constantly learning, constantly gaining knowledge and whatnot. So it's a very knowledge-based lifestyle that you're joining. Okay, so keep that in mind. You know, I always equate it to joining another nation. If you ever give up your citizenship and you choose to join another nation, think about all of the language that you have to learn, the customs, the traditions, the laws, you know, the food, the music, etc. Right? Because you're entering in a new lifestyle. So keep that in mind. Judaism, as I've stated before, isn't just a religion, right? You're learning an entire new way of life. You're joining a nation, right? So keep that in mind as you're on this conversion process. And I promise you, once you're done, it's going to be all worth it. Once you finally join the tribe, it will be all worth it. Just stick it out, you know, and pace yourself. You don't have to rush through everything. You don't have to learn everything like that, right? Pace yourself. There's a lot to learn. I mean, I've been Jewish my whole life, and I still don't know half of everything. So it's perfectly fine. You know, pace yourself. And even after you convert, you essentially, the learning will never stop. Right? It's true what they say. If you have 2 Jews, you have 3 different opinions, right? So you're constantly learning, gaining knowledge and whatnot. It's kind of the whole lifestyle. So just pace yourself. Don't get overwhelmed. Don't rush through it. Go at your own pace. Make Judaism your own, right? Judaism isn't going anywhere. It'll be here. So, you know, just take your time. All right. It's a whole different world that you're essentially stepping into. And when you finally do convert, be sure to comment down below on one of my presentations so I can give you a big shout out and say welcome to the tribe. All right. Next question we have is, I like hearing you talk about the Black community In your opinion, what happened to us as a people? We were so united in the 50s and 60s. All right, so this is a bit of a loaded question, and I'm going to try my best to answer it. Um, so, in short, we stopped valuing each other and we stopped valuing education, right? Now, some of that rests on us, but some of it also rests on the government. Okay, this was systematically done. Okay, and I'll explain what I mean. I'll give a brief history as to what I'm talking about. So the government assassinated Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Okay, in 1968. This isn't a conspiracy theory. You can look it up for yourself. His wife, Coretta Scott King, actually sued the United States government in 1999 and won. And it was found that the United States government essentially had a hand in assassinating Dr. King. So Dr. King dies in 68. Okay. In 1970, they realized that they must neutralize the black family household. Why? Because it was the black family, the individual men and women, the hardworking men and women that financed Dr. King, financed Malcolm X, financed Marcus Garvey, financed the Freedom Riders, right? It was individual black men and women that were essentially giving money to these causes, their own liberations, right? So what did the United States government do in the 1970s? Again, this was systematically done. So they started to deindustrialize our city centers, right? They started shutting down factories, okay? Up until the 60s, you didn't need a college degree to get a decent job. All right. Many of us have grandparents that worked in factories their whole lives and lived better than we're living now. Lived better lives than we're living today. Right. And everybody worked in factories. Right. You had pension, retirement, benefits. Right. So everybody worked in them. It was a good way to make a living and provide for your family. Then what the United States government did was they went into the high schools and started removing essential programs. Okay. They did the same thing. They started taking out programs that, helped the black community. Right. So up until 1970s, you could graduate from a lot of high schools certified as a plumber, certified as an electrician, a carpenter, a brick mason, a welder, auto body, right? These are the skills that essentially pays the bills, right? These were people that learned how to, by the time they graduated high school, they knew how to work with their hands. So they started taking all those programs out of the high schools. And so what they did was they started pushing us to go to college. Right? Now, I know many people that have 2 and 3 college degrees and are in the unemployment line. I've never seen an unemployed plumber, an unemployed electrician. These are the skills that pays the bills, right? If you had a skill, then you could always feed your family. But the moment that they started taking out these programs of the high schools and they started shutting down the factories, now you're forced essentially to go to college, and that doesn't guarantee you a job, especially in that era. Right? Now, that was the 1970s. Now let's look at the 1980s. Okay? Anybody that was born in the 80s, such as myself, were known as crack babies, right? Why? Because crack hit the scene hard in the 1980s, right? So now, as a black man that all the factories have been shut down. They started taking out programs out of the high school, and now you have this new drug, right? Now you have two choices. You can either sell this crack in order to put food on the table, or you can smoke it to deal with the fact that you're no longer relevant to the black family. So you didn't have a lot of choices, right? The 1970s was essentially the decade where the black family was economically castrated, right? They started to deindustrialize our city centers and our high schools. So black people essentially couldn't get jobs, right? Now, along with that, in the 70s and 80s, the women had to rely on public help, right? Welfare, food stamps, housing. But they did it on a conditional basis. So they did it on the condition of you can't have a man living there. So the government became the black woman's new man, so to speak, because they weren't allowed to have a man living there. So not only does the man get cast out, he doesn't have a job, right? This crack is the only thing that he can sell essentially to make money, or he can smoke it to deal with the depression that's setting in, but he can't even go home. Right? He can't even go and live with the black woman because the government is saying that he can't. If he comes in or if he's caught there, we will cut off your food stamps. We will cut off your welfare, your health benefits, etc. Right? I was in the 1970s and 80s. Come with me to the 1990s. President Bill Clinton introduces the crime bill. 3 strikes and you're out. So now, the black men that are caught smoking and or selling this drug, right? Selling this crack are getting thrown in jail at an alarming rate, right? Then we go to the 2000s. President George W. Bush finds a loophole in federal law. He introduces this idea known as the faith-based initiative, right? Which means that he found a way to essentially finance churches. Do you think it's a coincidence that none of these major churches ever speaks out on police injustice against minorities? What black people go through on a day-to-day basis? Right? Where is the black pastor of these mega churches when it comes to the injustices and the hardships that black people face? They're missing in action. Why? Because they are being paid by the government to essentially keep their mouth shut or to stay out of the struggle. They're being paid by the government to hold their opinions on certain matters. And that is why it's called the faith-based initiative, because the pastor has become the new FBI agent, right? I got that from reading Dr. Johnson's book. Now, we did have a hand in our own sabotage as well, right? So NWA also came out in the mid to late 80s, okay? Now, they made it cool to be a gangster rapper. Now, there were others, Ice-T and whatnot, but the big thing was to be a gangster rapper, right? Now, young people my age gravitated towards that because NWA was the first ones that actually sold 1 million copies with no radio play or anything. And they became millionaires, right? Based off of degrading women, glorifying, killing other black individuals, right? So, in a large part, hip-hop did not help the black community in terms of the gangster rap. And I know that's controversial to say, but I'm going to say it, right? It didn't help us. It hurt us in many ways. Because now, everyone wants to be a rapper. And not just a rapper, they want to rap about gangster lifestyles. In a lot of cases, you know, the rappers themselves aren't even about that life, right? But the young people want to imitate that. So instead of being scientists, instead of being philosophers, etc., they want to imitate these gangster rappers who are glorifying killing each other, you know, the gang life and whatnot. And they're essentially making it cool. Now, of course, before NWA and this gangster rap came on the scene, you always had, you had rap before then. You had the Public Enemy, Rakim, things like that. But they rapped about more conscious things that they seen. They were storytellers, right? But when gangster rap hit the scene, everybody wanted to be a gangster. And people were losing their lives at an alarming rate to try to prove that they, you know, that they own the block that they live on. It's crazy. But in my opinion, that's essentially what happened to the black community. It's unfortunate, and I hate it. I recognize that I'm a black man, and I can only do my part in trying to say that there are so much more options for black people than to just dribble a basketball or rap a lyric, right? We're a diverse group of people, and we can do anything that we set our minds to. We just need to value education like we used to, right? The inventors, look at who invented the traffic light, the air conditioning unit. You know, these are black people, right? If we put our mind to it, we can do anything. But we're so pitted against each other. We're such in competition with each other that we don't want to see the next person get ahead. And that is, again, some of it is a result of our own actions and our own mindset. And as I explained, another portion of it was systematically done. So, hope that answers your question. Next question we have, all right, is what is your view of Satanists and atheists? So, my view is, I served this great country in the military, right? And I fought for the right for everyone to believe whatever they choose to believe. As long as they're not harming anyone else, this is a free country, right? You are free to believe in whatever God or no God, right? Now, I recently seen the Satanist convention, right? Where a woman was ripping the American flag, the blue American flag, and ripping out pages of the Holy Bible and whatnot, declaring her faith for Satan and whatnot. Take a look.
Let them continue without fierce opposition, and we stand here today in defiance of their siege and destroy their symbols of oppression. Symbols of oppression.
So yeah, I don't know what that's all about, but again, everyone has the freedom of expression, freedom of speech, that sort of thing. So I respect everyone's beliefs as long as you're not harming anyone. I do have an issue with certain atheists, certain Satanists that go around antagonizing people that believe in a loving God and whatnot, right? Those that use science as kind of like a club to disprove religions and God and whatnot. I don't too much care for that. And what's interesting about the clip that you just seen was she was tearing up the American police flag and ripping out pages of the Holy Bible and whatnot. And notice the cowardice of this group, right? Here's the thing. What I've noticed is that some atheists and Satanists antagonize Christians, right? Because they know that Christians are essentially an easy target. And I don't particularly like bullies, right? But they know that Christians are an easy target, right? They're not going to do anything. They're not going to retaliate. Jesus taught peace, love, and whatnot. So love your enemies and things like that. Right? So they may get annoyed or aggravated or what have you, but they're not going to essentially retaliate. But I wonder what would happen if that same woman were to start ripping pages from the Quran, right? One of these more hostile religious groups, the Nation of Islam, the Hebrew Israelite movement, the Sunni Muslims, the Shia Muslims, right? Nobody wants to pick on Islam. Why? Because Islam states to kill the infidel or to kill the disbeliever, right? They're not as peaceful as the Christians and the Jews are. Right? So, and again, I'm not advocating for anyone to commit any kind of violent act or whatever the case may be. But I always find it funny that, a lot of Satanists and some atheists go around antagonizing people that have very peaceful, religious beliefs. Right? Because as much as I know many atheists are peaceful and they're nice people and they just go about their lives and whatnot, and that's amazing. But at the end of the day, religion, to me, as a whole, is a very good thing. There's been, if you look at the amount of charity that is being done, it's mostly religious groups that are doing it. The amount of people that are struggling with rent, there are many churches that will help. There are many religious institutions that do good, right? And a lot more than the atheists and the Satanists, right? So what they stand for is something good. Right? And there are some that just wants to tear it down because they view them as weak-minded or they're dumb for believing in a God that they can't see or whatever the case may be, right? And my thing is, why? Why? They're not hurting anybody. In fact, they're actually helping people. They're actually helping society, right? So I personally just don't understand it, but I like to draw the cowardice of this particular Satanist movement. I want to see you do that with the Quran and see what happens, all right? As I said, Christians are very loving people. Jews are a minority, a fraction of the entire world's population, but Muslims is the fastest growing, and you don't see a lot of atheists trying to, disprove disprove the Quran, right? 9 times out of 10 is because they don't know much about it. but they will go around swinging, science and waving it in Christians' face, trying to disprove God, right? So, but for the most part, I respect anyone to hold, the beliefs that they have. All I try to do on this platform is educate, right? I try to educate people and say that I believe in a God and this is why. And for my Christian friends, I try to convince them that there's only one God. And, whether you believe in Jesus or not, or whatever the case may be, all I'm saying is God is one, not three in one. He doesn't have any companions beside him or whatever the case is. He's just one, right? That was the thing that he uttered to my ancestors. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. The Lord, your God, is one. All right? So that's my opinion on atheists and Satanists. I respect everybody's beliefs. Next question is, how do you know when a man truly loves you? That's a loaded question, and I can't speak for all men. But if I had to answer this question, I would say, a man loves you when he allows you to take him out of his comfort zone. See, as men, we're very routine based, right? We will oftentimes eat the same thing at the same restaurant, take the same way to work every day, do the same thing when we come home from work, etc., right? A lot of times we are looking for a woman to essentially come in and fit into our routine that we have already established, right? The woman that we really love has a way of getting us out of our comfort zone and trying new things, right? A man isn't typically vulnerable enough to open up and try new things with just any woman. So he really has to care for you and love you in order for him to try new things with you, right? So if he is open-minded to the things that you're recommending to him, right, and willing to get out of his normal routine, in my opinion, I feel like he really loves you. But of course, that's just my opinion. It doesn't hold true, and I don't speak for all men, right? Everybody has their own idea of love. I've always said that I feel like love is subjective. I can't tell you what love is any more than you can tell me, right? It depends on the individual. But for me, it's a woman that can make a man better by getting him out of his comfort zone. The comfort zone is a great place to be, but nothing will ever grow there, right? That's why typically, married men live longer than single men, right? Statistically speaking, because you have a woman by your side that is getting you out of your comfort zone and making you try new things, right? And also keeping you from making a few dumb decisions at that. So that being said, that's my honest opinion on that. All right. Last question. In your opinion, when is the best time for a man and a woman to get married? So for me, I'll say something that's a little controversial. I think that men and women should get married young, right? I'd say after high school, first or second year into college, right? I think that is honestly the best time. I know that the cliche of society, the agenda they're trying to push is graduate high school. Then after high school, then go to college, graduate college. Then after that, go to grad school, graduate grad school. Then after that, establish a career, get your own place, and then get your own vehicle. And then try to settle down with a man or a woman, right? The problem with that is that as you are gaining all of this success on your own, By the time you're in your 30s, late 30s, early 40s, you're not going to be that willing to compromise for anyone. And that's why you see a lot of relationships failing in that age bracket, because they've already done this and that and had children, done, have their house, have this. And so, they're very, in terms of a relationship, immature. And they become so independent that it's almost turned into arrogance, right? Because what that does is creates a society where the man graduates high school, college, gets a career, has their own place, has their own vehicle, right? And the woman takes the same route, graduates high school, college, finds a good career, has their own place and vehicle, right? Then they meet each other. Then what ends up happening is they find themselves at a crossroads or a stalemate, right? Because if you're talking marriage, well, the woman says, okay, I'm established, I have a successful career, I live here, why don't you come on and you can move in with me? Well, the man says, no, I establish a career here, I live here, and this is my house, you sell your house and come live with me. There's very little room for compromise, egos get involved, and so what ends up happening is they start to bash the institution of marriage as a whole. And then they start questioning, why do we need marriage? Why do we need a piece of paper, right? Let's just be together, right? We don't need the legal stuff and whatnot, right? And that's essentially what is being pushed in terms of society, right? You don't need marriage. Marriage is old news and whatnot. And I absolutely disagree with that. Marriage still works, right? And it sucks that a few people that have had bad experiences or too afraid to take that step in order to get married are trying to push that marriage doesn't work. No, it still does. Absolutely, it still does. And that's why I say, men and women should get married younger. Why? Because when you're young and you're building that success, right, while you're in college and you're working your way towards that career and whatnot, right? You're picturing a life with that person that you're with in it. Whereas if you're single the entire way, all you're thinking about is yourself. And you can become very selfish, right? Independence has turned into arrogance. When you're young and you're with someone, you develop relationship wisdom, right? In which case, you have someone that has your back and you know how to compromise, you know how to communicate. They know you know them. So you can connect on a deeper level. You have a strong foundation, right? And it teaches you to care about somebody else other than yourself, right? So it's beautiful to see, people that have been together 15, 20, 25 plus years. And then you ask them, well, how did you all meet? When did you all, oh, we were high school sweethearts, or we met at our first year of college, etc., right? That's beautiful to me. You get to see this person's personality evolve over time, the evolution of their character, and at the same time you keep them grounded. And you know what it's like to essentially, go through the highs and the lows of the relationship. That is beautiful to me. And you think about it, when you get married later, as to when you get married younger, right? When you get married older, what is the going theme of a divorce, right? If something goes wrong and divorce is called into question, everything is about money, right? Well, I'm going to have to pay her alimony. I'm going to have to pay him alimony. I'm going to, they're going to take half my stuff. Everything becomes so materialized, right? But when you get married younger and you're older and, you consider divorce, it's not anything about money. It's about, well, for the last 20 plus years, I've known you. I don't know how to even go about my life without you in it. I've never pictured a life without you there, right? So it's not about the materialistic things. It's about, I don't even know how to operate. We've been together so long, for the majority of our lives together. I don't know how to function without you. And that makes the person more willing to work out their problems, right? As opposed to, you get with someone that is independent, has their own place, career, etc. If you so much as leave the top off of the toothpaste in the bathroom, right? That woman could sit there and say, look, you gotta go. You're disturbing my peace. I can't handle this. Like, you leaving the tops off of toothpaste. I can't deal. I can't deal. Right? I mean, they're so quick to end a relationship because they're so used to being by themselves, as opposed to, the younger couple or getting married young. You're so used to having someone, your best friend, that love there, right? And if you have that person when you're young, it prevents you from doing stupid things. If a man really loves a woman and you found your person in college, you're not going to be likely to go and impregnate this woman, right? Because she's going to keep you grounded. And the same thing for the woman. Society is pushing this and glorifying the independent women, and and I think that is great. You got your own job, you pay your own bills and all that other stuff. Why do you need a man? And it's all crap, right? And if a woman that is young has a man, she's going to ignore all of those songs and this agenda that is essentially being pushed, that's saying that women don't need men. Women need men and men need women. It is biologically even true, right? It is the driving force pushing our existence as human beings. So, of course, men need women and women need men, right? But society has tricked a lot of this new generation into believing that, no, it's all about you. It's all about you. You're independent. You're fierce. You could do it all by yourself. Yeah, you could do it all by yourself. And there are many men and women that do it by themselves. But the question is, why would you want to? You could drive your car with your feet if you wanted to, but, why? And people always say, relationships are hard. No, they're not. The relationships are only hard when one person is working on it and putting in all of the effort, right? Two people can move a couch very easily. One person can't move it at all, right? So I dismiss and disregard this idea that, well, men don't need women, women don't, because the biology doesn't even hold that. How do we populate the earth if we don't need each other? Right? The bottom line is that we do need each other. And if we could separate this arrogance and put our ego to the side and be honest with ourselves, then a lot of people will see it. I don't care what career you have. I don't care what, the bills that you pay and whatnot. You have to. People glorify being independent, and yeah, it's great that you found a job and you're paying your bills on time. That's called being an adult. You don't really have a choice. You either do that or you starve to death. You either do that or you're homeless. You don't really have a choice, right? It's called being an adult. But the greater question is, can you love someone and put somebody else before yourself? Whether it's a child, whether it's your significant other, can you love someone else? What can you do for someone else? And maturity comes in when you realize that it's not all about you. It's not all about you. Because in the end, you don't take any of those degrees with you, those certificates with you, right? You don't take the materialistic stuff with you. And your job doesn't care. They're going to, you could essentially drop dead, Lord heaven forbid, and they will post your job within, I'd say, 48 hours and find somebody else to fill that shift. Right? You are replaceable at work, but you're not replaceable at home. Your legacy, the way that you become immortal and what you leave behind in this world, depends on who you love, because they're going to be the ones that essentially tell your story. It's your children, it's your husband, it's your wife. They're the ones that will tell your story. They're the ones that view you as irreplaceable. So a lot of people have to get their priorities straight when it comes to relationships and marriage. And I believe that when you get married young, you develop that relationship wisdom, right? So hopefully I answered that question. I know it was a little long-winded. Thank you all so much for tuning into Blade Talk. If you enjoyed this presentation, be sure to give it a big thumbs up and like, share, comment. I appreciate all of it. Until the next episode, be good to yourselves, be good to others. Let me know if you like this new setup. I wanted to broaden topics that I cover. I do Jewish topics and discuss Christianity. I discuss Islam, and I'm going to continue to do it, but I'm also going to open the door to other topics as well. So I wanted to create an environment where it could, be like kind of a neutral atmosphere. All right. So that being said, thank you all so much. Thank you all for your questions, your support, for subscribing, for liking, for bearing with me, and just overall watching me for, it's been 30, 40 minutes, something like that. Thank you all so much for everything that you all do for me, whether you've liked it, whether you've shared one of my videos, whether you've commented. Thank you all so much. Be good to yourselves, be good to others, and until the next episode, you all take care.